A. Today, I want to touch section B. I would request if you have a question in relation to section B, okay, which has been a challenge on how to approach it, feel free and put up your hand. I'll give you a chance and then we share it. Oftentimes we have found out immediately our children are given test papers, they begin from known to unknown. And the known means from the simple to difficult. They pass a few numbers in A, and then through the rewrite, and then section B becomes what? A challenge. Now, there are particular questions asked in section B, whereby if a candidate does not know the approach, the skill on how to answer them, much as you have the idea, answer presentation is key, very paramount, because it enables you answer the question and you get your mark. Now, allow me talk about tenses in general. Candidates normally pay less attention to the tenses in section B. And remember, if you divert from the tense in the question, definitely you'll be answering a wrong question. For instance, if I ask a question, say, when did the accident take place? When did the accident take place? And then you are given an idea as maybe, let's see, today is 6th, maybe it took place on 5th, October 2023. That is the idea. This is the question. Now, you'll agree with me, if the question is, when did the accident take place? And the idea is that date there. And then a candidate has the following responses. A, the accident took place on 5th October 2023. Full stop. Then another one, a candidate writes, the accident took place or are in. There are those who misplace the things in the 5th October 2023. Another one on the right. The accident will take place on 5th October 2000 what? 23. Now, I would beg to stop there. But we want to look at how these questions are really what? Answered. The question is, when did the accident take what? Place. You realize that candidates have to understand this. Candidates, you need to understand the tense in which the question has been framed. I can see Bright Tech, Uganda. Thank you for joining us. The tense is normally represented by the main verb in the question. The tense is also represented by the helping verb. Now, when we look at our main verb is take. And when we look at it, it hasn't transformed. But there is something else that guides us, and that is the helping verb. Helping verb, did, tells us that this question requires your answer in a past simple tense. Past simple tense. Adverb of time for past simple tense is actually yesterday. Now, when you candidates get to understand the tense in which the question is asked, when you get to know the prepositions that move hand in hand with certain events, it becomes very easy for you to answer a given question. Because when I say, when did the accident take place? One, I first get to know the tense. Looking at the main verb, untampered with. But something that will guide me is the helping verb, which has been used in the past simple tense, which is did. So I will get to know that the question is in the past tense. My response has to be in past tense. Now, in my response, I will not use the helping verb did. But now, did here will affect my main verb. Given the fact that this did is in the past tense, it will affect the main verb, and the main verb will change to So in my answer, I will have to use the past tense. And I have to make sure that I know the prepositions that go along with the events. For instance, if I am talking about days of the week, the preposition is on. Months of the year, it is in. Any year or years also takes what? In. But should I have another event? For instance, Easter Sunday. I have the event. I have a day named maybe Easter Day. Easter Day. I will borrow the idea of that day, and the preposition is on. On the Easter day or on Easter. But now, if I only have a period of an event, for instance, the Easter season. Are we there? Easter, Christmas. So this period where an event takes place, we normally use preposition at. So you say, I slaughtered a chicken at Christmas, at Easter. But if there is a day, maybe Christmas Day. So because of the fact that there is a day, the preposition changes. So as a candidate, you must be knowing all these dynamics such that when you are framing your answer has no issues. You're just writing to satisfy the question, and your mark will be waiting for you. Muruga Joseph, thank you for joining us. Now, back to the question. So, you must be knowing prepositions. You must be knowing helping verbs. You must identify the correct tense in which the question has been what? Asked. And then you will be in the position to answer the question. Now, looking at this, when did the accident take place? Answer number 1. The accident took place on 5th October 2023. The accident took place in 5th October 2023. The third one, the accident will take place on 5th October 2023. I'm going to make it interactive. Put up your hand, you tell me which of the 3 answers the question. Which of the 3 answers the question I have on my board?
Yes.
It's number 1.
Unmute. Somebody put up the hand if you have been following. Yes. So of the 3 answers, which one answers the question? When did the accident take place? No hand up?
Yeah, what did you go at here?
I am not seeing hands there.
Take a Google.
Wow.
Like
I'm not seeing closed hands. Okay, should I assume we have understood? There's somebody talking. We can't get you clearly. I don't
Option
see
number
any
1.
hand.
Already.
Option number 1. Why do you say option number 1? Yes?
Different.
Why do you say option number 1?
Option number 1. Evident. On. Fifth.
Option number 1.
Okay. Option number 1 is correct, right? What about if I remove this comma here? Will it be correct?
Sorry?
Yes?
Sorry?
Somebody who is talking, please. If I do away with the comma here after the month, will the answer be still correct?
A comma.
Okay, without wasting much time, when
Filling
we
the
write
field.
the date independently, you can mute your speaker, please, so that we can listen. Thank you. When we are writing the date in the open, if it's not in a sentence, you are writing the date, you don't need a comma. For instance, I'm writing the date of today, 6th October. So I'll just write 6th October 2023 without a comma here. Now, if I put it in a sentence, a careful one puts a comma there. Because now this has been placed in a sentence form. But in case you forget it, you will not be penalized. Now, for answers number 1, number 2, and number 3, number 2 is wrong in a way that we have a wrong preposition. In does not go with the date. Option number 3, there is slight change in the tense. We call it wrong tense. Now, with wrong tense, there is no negotiation for it. This statement or this sentence is very clear, grammatically correct, but it is answering a different question. When will the accident take place? Now, it puts you in a very dangerous situation that you have become a foreteller of sudden happenings. You could have become a prophet. So already this will take as tampered with the tense, very correct statement grammatically, but answering a different question. So with the tenses, there is no mercy in section B. If you want to get marks, a candidate, you as a candidate, you must answer
Yes, me, Mr. Facilitator.
Yes.
Thank you for your facilitation.
You're welcome.
Nakaloba Jaliat from Kamuli,
Yes.
from Nabire Madalasat. That is the school.
Okay.
My question is,
Yes.
when I'm writing the answer,
Yes.
supposing I do away with the 5th October 2023 and I write those in full, won't I be marked?
Instead of writing it in full like this, then you have it in a sentence, then you have 5.
No,
Those,
not that. Not that. Writing everything in words.
You write this date in words. Is Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Fifth.
Yes.
Fifth is December.
Okay. Now, first of all, this date is in full like this. The shorter form of this is 5-10/2023 or 5 dot, but a bigger dot, 10 dot 2023. Now, these are the shorter forms, the one we call informal. Or you can have 5, then a hyphen, 10 hyphen 2023. These are considered as the shorter forms. Now, the full form means you will stretch and write the month in words. And then for the given figure there that represents the date, of course, we put the TH if it so deserves it. If it is 3, we put the RD. But how do we write?
That's
Since you are
the full.
it down, as you can see, because your hand writing. You're not a computer that puts it a little bit what? Up. Now, in so telling the candidate that it is section B, and we must answer the questions in full sentences, and then you make your candidate write 50 October 2023 in words. PLA, if you find erratic examiners, your candidate may lose what? A mark. This alone means you have written the date in full. I would advise desist from writing this all in words. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you, sir.
Have I answered your question? You're welcome.
Very well.
Now, there is this other type of question in section B. In section B, whereby a candidate lifts the whole idea. They say avoid lifting of ideas. For instance, you have a question that says, what caused the accident? What caused the accident? What caused what? The accident. And then you have an idea, maybe John was riding a motorcycle at a high speed. When he arrived at the corner, he failed to reduce the speed. That is the idea given. Now, the question is asking, what caused the accident? Then a child gives you the whole statement as an answer. That is what we call lifting. Maybe you were given the idea in the text or in the story. John was riding at a high speed. When he reached the corner, He failed, let's say, to brake. He failed to brake the motorcycle. He failed to brake the motorcycle. Now, that is the given idea. Then they just ask a simple question. What caused the accident? How would you answer that question? Now, a child who writes the whole part of the story actually does what we call lifting. Lifting is when you write almost a paragraph of where the idea that answers a question is found. Meaning, a child does not know the correct answer. Remember, you are given a text to read, and then you get the idea. Now, how do we get the idea? You highlight the idea. Let's assume this was question B. And they say, what caused the accident? Now, after me reading, John was riding at a high speed. When he reached the corner, he failed to brake the motorcycle. And maybe he fell and injured himself. I will have to look for the idea. The idea will be riding at a high water speed. Then I will name here question B. So I know that the idea that answers my question B is riding at a high speed. Then they say, what caused the accident? You can give us the simplest answer using that text. Who can give us the simplest answer to that question from the text? So you just pick the idea. The idea is riding at a high speed. So what caused the accident? So the answer will be riding. Riding. What was he riding? The motorcycle. So you say riding the motorcycle. The motorcycle at a high speed caused the accident. The accident. Full stop. So we have to be very careful when we are reading given stories, given poems, given pieces of information. Now, when they ask you a question, you as a candidate, somebody's mic is on, St. Agnes.
Yeah.
Okay. You can mute.
I duck my time.
Or you want to ask a question?
The accident was
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I have another alternative. Supposing I say like this.
Yes.
The accident was caused by John riding at a high speed. Full stop.
The accident was caused. It's okay. You can unmute and you listen. I mean, you can mute and you listen.
Oh.
Now, you can mute, then you listen. Okay, thank you. Now, when you say the accident was caused, you have crossed to answering a question in passive voice. Are we there? Passive voice is not accepted to answer questions in section B. Passive voice is only accepted if the question is also in a passive. For instance, by whom was the poem written? Then you say, maybe the poem was written by so and so. You get it? But this question is in section B. Passive voice is a no-go zone. Without reading your answer, it is marked straight away as wrong. 2, bringing John to this, they only want the cause, not who caused. The other question would be, how did John get an accident? How did John get an accident? Now, that's when we shall involve the John and he becomes very guilty. So we shall say, because a how question asks for the way, the method, how something came to pass. So how did John get the accident? So we can say, with a how question, pick the idea. The simplest way these days on how to answer how questions is to pick the idea straight away. John rode the motorcycle at a high speed, full stop. How did John get an accident? John rode a motorcycle at a high speed and failed to brake at a corner. Full stop. The how questions these days we answer by writing the idea direct, but following the correct tense. So back to this question, John is not even needed in this question because they want the cause of the accident, but not who caused the accident. And neither shall we accept, according to the rules, answers in passive voice.
John.
Yes. Somebody's mic is on. Maybe somebody wants to ask. You're free.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for your explanations.
You're welcome.
But I want clarity on these things.
Yes, yes.
How do we answer the how question is, the why question is, and then the what question is?
Now, I'm just, there's the Biancy, Robert. Okay, Robert, you can ask also. That I answer.
Is seeing actually.
This right now is seeing.
What? How?
They're able to have to raise your
And why? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There is the British, Uganda Limited, yes?
ask.
New,
So you can go
unmuted.
unmute.
Bright Tech, Uganda Limited, unmute and speak so that I can answer them at once and we move on.
So suppose I gave
Mhm.
my answer as brake failure is what caused the accident. How would
Brake
that be?
failure. Brake what?
Brake failure
Mm.
is what caused the accident.
Now, it is very hard for you to convince whoever is going to mark that brake failure occurred in your machine. When there is a clear idea that riding at a high speed, because I may be having my faulty brakes or my brakes may fail, but when I'm not at a high speed, I stand a chance of not causing what? An accident. But if I am at a high speed, that is a risk enough to cause the panic in braking whichever machine you are moving on, and automatically any mistake there, an accident occurs. So brake failure is what caused an accident. May not work for this question. Okay. Now, the what question you
In case I
have
want
to
to
provide,
respond, I go here.
yes. The what question
I first
needs
press the
you
mic
to answer
after here.
the question
Then if
with the
you are
exact
seeing it,
idea.
It is me, I come here.
Somebody unmute. Yeah. Mute your mic so that you can
I
listen.
see in middle.
unless you don't want me to see.
No, it's clear. Let's go ahead.
Okay, Bright Tech, mute so that you can. Okay.
Let's continue.
Okay. So, a what question must have an idea in a full what sentence. For instance, in here, our answer, our idea is riding at
Raise it
a high
from here
speed.
and there. Becomes simple.
Those voices are interjecting and people may not have the echo, people may not. Okay, thank you. So a what question asks for the exact idea without beating by the bush, and it must be in a complete sentence. What caused the accident? Riding the motorcycle at a high speed caused the accident. Assuming this was the idea given. Now, a how question is different from a what question. If you ask me in SST and science, how questions normally begin with a by. Because you give the method, the way in which something happened. Now, for this case, in section B in English, giving the response, the idea straight away, these days helps us to answer a how question. For instance, in this one, if they ask, how did John get an accident? So we have the idea of riding the motorcycle at a high speed. Then maybe you can add the idea of failing to brake. So we can say, how did John get an accident? John rode the motorcycle at a high speed. The idea alone answers the question of how. However, the children can also go the long way. John got the accident by riding the motorcycle at a high speed. But the challenge with a very long sentence is that in section B, the more words you write, the longer the sentence, the easier for you to mess up, and the statement will become clumsy. There will be a word that will twist the meaning of the sentence, or that will trigger the tense of the given answer in according or in relation to the question. So, to be on a safer side, the candidate must answer a how question by giving the answer direct. How did John travel to town? And there is an idea. And there is an idea of maybe taxi. How did John travel to town? How did John travel to town? And there's an idea of taxi or by taxi. You just pick the idea direct. John traveled to town by taxi. As simple as that. How did John travel to town this morning? John traveled town by taxi. John traveled by taxi. As simple as that. Now, for the case of the why question must have a simple word that introduces the reason. Why questions have so many ways under which we can answer them when we are introducing the reason. For instance, we can attach just preposition to. We can use so as to introduce the reason. There are certain questions that may take when. There are certain questions that will take what? Because. There are questions that will take in order. In order that, in order to, depending on the question. There are questions, why questions, that will take so that. So that. So all these answer a why question. For instance, why did John go to town? Why did John go to town? And they have given us the idea, maybe to buy or buy a geometry set. Now, there are many ways under which we can answer this question. Why did John go to town? I can use this to direct. John went. Remember what I told you? Look at the verb, look at the helping verb, determine the tense of the question. So, why did John go to town? John went to town to buy a geometry set. John went to town so as to buy a geometry set. John went to town because he wanted to buy a geometry set. John went to town in order to buy a geometry set. John went to town so that he could buy a geometry set. John went to town in order that he could buy a geometry set. So you'll find that all may work for that kind of question, except the when. So, depending on the question, but there are many ways under which we can answer a why question, or there are many words that help us bring the reason to answer a why question. I hope I have answered the question. Now, there are these questions. Yes, Saint Agnes. Saint Agnes, speak.
What if the question is how many people were involved in an accident?
How many people were involved?
Yeah.
Remember, we don't get an accident. We don't have an accident, but you will be part of the accident. So we say get involved in an accident. Now, let me just summarize. You can mute, then I have seen where the question is. Thank you. Now, we have this. How many? Question of how many? Now, look out for the helping verb. How many people were in. When you have a preposition, after these helping verbs, is in, was in, is at, were at, are at, all these prepositions point to a place. There is an idea of pointing to a place. Now, after realizing that these prepositions after this helping verb point to a place, your answer begins with there. depending on the helping verb and the tense. There was, there is, there were, there are. And you continue with your answer. Now, when you have a how question, how many people survived? Survived in the accident. In the accident. Now, when we have the main verb, how many people? You can even say how many people were involved. In fact, let me use something which is similar. How many people were involved in the accident? Now, there is an idea of let me finish, and I finish. There is an idea of but with direct. Okay? Is it smiled? 10 something? Let me finish. Now, when you have all of this and pointing to a main verb, probably even the tense has changed. Any of this connected to a main verb, you begin with the number direct. For instance, assuming the people who were involved in the accident were what? 5. Are we there? Then the question is, how many people were involved in the accident? Your answer begins with the number straight away. So you will say 5 people. 5 people were involved in the accident. Here, how many people are involved in the accident? Are involved in the accident? In the accident. And still we have the idea of 5. But because of these prepositions after those given helping verbs that point to a place, our answer here begins with there. How many people are involved in that? There are 5 people involved because of the preposition that points to a place. And we begin our answer with there. How many people were involved? So, something like that. So, when we are talking to our candidates, dear teachers, let's be very specific. Let them understand are in, were in, is in, was in, is at, were on the table, something like that. The answer definitely points to a place and instructs us to begin with there are. You have all those helping verbs, but directly involved with the given verb. Begin with the number straight away. Thank you. I hope I've answered. There was a hand up. There was a hand up. Okay, there was a hand up. Okay. If I have answered, we move to the next one. Back to passive voice, okay? There is Gideon. Gideon, yes? Gideon, feel free. Gideon, you want to ask? Okay. If there isn't, let's move on.
What is
Yes?
the poem about?
What is the poem?
We want to know that how to answer this about.
Now, immediately,
Suggest a suitable title for the poem.
okay,
Mention the title of the poem.
How to answer that?
okay. Here we go. When you have the word about, what is the story? What is the story about? Now, after the word, when you have the when somebody meets, okay, thank you. Now, immediately after the word, when you see the word about, one, if my story, if my poem was talking, had information about maybe, let's say debate, debate, you make us expand on our vocabulary, you make us gain confidence, you make us gain fluency in the language. Aaron, thank you for joining us. And what have you? So, your poem probably could even having the title up there, debate. Now, let me ask you, what is the poem about? Now, this word here, about, will transform the way your title was written. Jimmy, thank you for joining us. And your answer will be the poem is about a debate. And lowercase letters is the best way to go. Is about a debate. So, when you see the word about, it is the key. And the secret behind this is that you will have to use the article if it necessitates. If the noun is in it, singular, it's about robbery. But robbery, small r, is about examinations. Examinations, small, and so on. Then, when they say mention, for instance, they are talking about debate, and you have gained so many things from or through practicing debates. You've gained fluency in English. You have gained confidence when you speak before people. You are confident enough to express your ideas. You have also broadened your vocabulary, meaning you have learned so many words to enrich on your spoken word or enrich your spoken English. Then they say, mention the two benefits you have maybe gained from debates. And one of them is fluency. When they say mention, your statement must begin with a small letter. Fluency in English. Confidence. Small letters. Confidence. Enriching. Maybe enriching my vocabulary. Something like that. So state, mention, name, all of those questions. You must begin your answer with a small letter. Because what you're writing is not a full sentence. It is either one word response. It can be a phrase which is not a full sentence. And then suggesting titles. This is one of the cheapest numbers where candidates get marks and also lose marks. Now, you may note somewhere, you as a candidate, how to write titles. How to write titles. How to write what? Titles. Now, many people have their own preference, but I tell you what, many preferences have their consequences. But for purposes of knowledge, we have titles which are written in capital letters. Capital letters. And they are correct. For instance, dog bites boy. You get? Capital letters. 2. Initializing. Initializing, meaning you capitalize only the first letter of every word, apart from prepositions and the articles. So I have dog bites boy. 3. Small letters, but highlighted. Highlighted. How do you highlight? By quoting. So I can say dog bites boy. Then you quote. Now, the other rule is use of articles. Of recent, use of articles make, okay, let's say articles make titles redundant. They make titles redundant. For instance, if I have this very one, then I will say the dog bites the boy. Or the dog bites the boy. Now I'll realize that this article that here is virtually useless to the statement. Whether they are there or not, the main information is dog bites boy. Now, a title must be eye-catching, very attractive to the reader. Now, a title must be connected to the characters. If it's not connected, then it can either be, in English we have so many statements that have meaning. Could be an idiom, it could be a saying, and it is related probably to what the story or the poem is talking about. I want to draw your attention probably to the teachers or even the candidates, if you have ever opened these PLO booklets. Some years back, there is one where there were pictures of a boy holding the dog's tail. And then the dog in the next picture decides to bite the boy. In the next picture, the boy is seen crying. The next one, the father, supposed father, comes in rescue. And then the other one is heading to the clinic for treatment. And then they will ask you to suggest a title to such a picture composition. Francis, thank you for joining us. So the title there, if I am to use a saying, I can say, okay, once bitten, twice shy. So the saying suits. Once bitten, twice what? Twice shy. Meaning that for the first time, I got hurt. So I will be a fool to go back for the second time, because definitely if I go back for the second time, I'll get beaten for the second time. So once bitten, twice shy. I will have learned that what I was playing with was harmful to me, dangerous to me. So to avoid it, better I stay. I don't reach there. So back to the point. I would advise all candidates, for the sake of marks, this business of capitalizing, not capitalizing, initializing, I would only go with one, and that is using capital letters. Whereby, when you use capital letters, do not underline. Capitalizing means you have highlighted. That's number one. So, how to write titles? One, use capital letters. Number two, don't use articles more so at the beginning. Don't use articles more so at the beginning of the title. At the beginning, let me put it down here so that's systematic. Articles more so at the beginning. At the beginning of your title. So if I am going to describe a character, I'm going to talk about John and his being hardworking. So I can say John, then I will have my comma. Then I can now use the article, the hardworking. The hardworking boy. No full stop, because it's not a sentence. So don't use articles. Don't say the hardworking boy. The better way would be a hardworking boy without articles. We have all watched news. Whenever they are reading news headlines, they don't give you a statement in details. They just pick the highlights, such that it makes you become tuned for more information. Police arrest thieves, maybe in Kampala. Now, for you don't know which category of thieves were arrested, and you'll want to find out the whole story when you read more. Now, I would easily discourage our learners to avoid using articles, more so at the beginning, but rather writing the title without articles. Like mine here, dog bites boy. Boy learns lesson, not the boy learns a lesson. You get the point? So it is easier to form titles even without articles. Then look at the characters. You may use the characters. We have what we call what befalls the character. What befalls the character. For instance, thieves arrested. Thieves arrested. So, what happened to the characters? So the thieves there were arrested. And if you want to know more, you read about the story. Okay, Joseph, I can see your hand up.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like to know, in case the child asks me why we don't use articles while forming headings, what can I answer to that child?
Articles make titles redundant. Articles make titles redundant. That is what you can tell them, and it is very true. Articles that begin in titles make them redundant. But the one I have used, the example I've put here, is very clear. I did not begin with it. There is even a punctuation. John, the hardworking boy. When I talk about John, somebody will ask, oh, John, which John? The hardworking boy. You get the point? And it becomes very clear. Paul Omongin, you are free to speak.
Yes.
Yes. Paul, you can speak. Paul Omongin. Okay. Now, what befalls a character is what happens to a character, like the way I was telling you. Thieves arrested, thief lynched. It's like when the mob decides to beat a thief until he's seen as dead, that's when they will release him. So, then, tense. Which tense do we use? Please endeavor to write your title in what we call present simple tense. Adverb of time here is every day. Every day. For instance, candidates write. PLE. Yes. I have some. Andrew, you were talking. I mean, your hand was up. Andrew, you can unmute and speak.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon, Secretary.
I have a question.
Yes.
John bought some sugar from Mr. Paul.
John bought some.
John bought some sugar from Mr. Paul. Write the sentence beginning Mr. Paul.
Okay. John bought some sugar from Mr. Paul. So what did Paul do? So Paul sold. So Paul sold some sugar to John. Okay. Let me finish, then the questions will come. We have very little time left. So that is all about titles. Now, you may write this. Yes, you may write this somewhere for your own consumption. Who questions? Who questions? You may write them somewhere so that you may remember this. Somebody unmute, mute your mic. Who questions? Questions requires a person. Over there. Where questions require a place. Which question requires a thing? Can be a thing, item. When questions requires for the time, date, time, stroke or date, stroke or day. Then we say how. How questions requires for the way. And then how long? How long questions or for how long requires duration. Now, I'm only going to pick on one question here of the who. I hope you've copied something. Have you copied something? I want to refer to one of them and then we move on. For instance, if I have this information, and it's an announcement, and then down here I have it as John, head teacher, maybe Bright Academy. Head teacher, Bright what? Academy. That is the information I have. Then they ask you a question. Assuming this was a notice. Huh? They say, who wrote the above notice? Who wrote the
There's a question in the audience.
Sorry?
There's a question.
You have a question?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Now, I've seen all that information.
Yes, yes.
Now, my area of interest
Yes.
is on the penalties. Are there some penalties that apply? Because when I look at all that you said here, my children have been doing them.
Okay.
That when the results come in Feb, they show you something different. Are there some kind of penalties like on handwriting or the way the child prints the work? That's the area where I want to be informed.
Okay. I
Penalties,
will handle it just after this. Huh?
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Now, when they say, who wrote the above notice? Now, I told you here, you can mute your mic so that we can listen. Okay, thank you. Now, a who question asks for a person. Now, when they say, who wrote the above notice? Don't look for the title and the place. Who question of the person? Somebody's mic is on. Ogwang Andrew, please mute your mic. Ogwang Andrew, mute your mic. Okay, thank you. Who wrote the above notice? You are only going to pick the name. And then you say, John wrote the above notice. John wrote the above notice. If the name is not there, over there, if the name is not there, and you have the title and the place, then they say, who wrote the notice? You will pick the title and the place where that title is respected or honored. Then I will say, the head teacher. The head teacher. The head teacher, comma, if I don't want to use of, the head teacher, Bright Academy, wrote the above notice. Or the head teacher. If I don't want to use this comma, I will now use the of. The head teacher of Bright Academy wrote the above notice. We should learn to answer a who question in the simple way. Now, if I have a name here, there are those long answers which I discourage because our children may forget punctuation marks. For instance, if I have here John, then they say, who wrote? Then I will say, John, comma, the head teacher. The head teacher comma, Bright Academy wrote the above notice. The answer is very beautiful when it has this punctuation marks. But you know, you candidates are funny in a way that you will forget one. And once you forget one, there's nothing we can do about it. Your answer will definitely be what? Crossed. So by so going the long way, there are so many risks that you will encounter that make you lose what? A mark. However, you can protect that mark by only putting the name. Who wrote? And then you'll say, John wrote the above notice. If the name is not there, and there is the title, say the head teacher of Bright Academy wrote the above notice. If you don't want to use of, use a comma. The head teacher, comma, Bright Junior Academy wrote the notice. Because you will not be the head teacher everywhere he goes. So don't just say, the head teacher wrote the above notice. If there is a title, you use the title plus the place where that title is respected. Then, serious offenses. Serious offenses in the English language. One, when we talk about handwriting, all candidates must learn to form letter by letter for every word they will write. Let letters stand alone because unnecessary joining of letters. In fact, they say two letters cannot enjoy one space. If I have a small chair here, definitely this one chair is going to be used by one person. So I cannot have one person seated on that chair, then another one comes to sit on top of that person. Really, that is highly and highly punishable. So if I write head teacher, then I end up writing head teacher. Head teacher. You will see that these two letters are joined. And I cannot guess which one is this, which one is the other. Likewise to this. So this makes you, the candidate, to lose a mark. And this is highly punishable. Joining letters. That is one. Two, unnecessary spacing of letters. I am writing the word duration. Duration, which is written like this. Duration. with the normal spacing of my letters. Then I write duration. Duration. And I space. This space is virtually seen as being larger than these other spaces. So you cause issues here and you lose a mark. More so to compound words. Maybe two words forming a single word. For instance, the reflexive pronouns or the reflexives. If I have oneself, which is supposed to be written like this as one word, and then I have mine here, one, and then self. Already this spacing here means that I have two meanings, the first one and the second one. I will have the original meaning of one and the original meaning of self, which is far different from oneself. This one is equally highly punishable. Equally punishable. And you lose a mark straight away. This is called unnecessary spacing. This is unnecessary joining. The third one is doctoring. Doctoring of letters. Now, I want to write the word, girl, which is written like this. But from nowhere, maybe I first write, let me give an example of boy. I want to write the word what? Boy. But I realize that I have written Bob. And now this U, this letter Y is not open. Then I force it like that, look like that. Then just look at this. We don't think for the candidate. The people marking have a rule that don't think for the candidate. And with this, definite cross, no mercy. I am writing the word a beach where people go to relax, like this. But I realize that I have written a beach with EE, which does not exist. But I realize that this letter here is supposed to be A. Then I stress it like that. This is not like that one. So doctoring straight away. There is no negotiation. Then in section B, or let's say in all the paper, be it in the right, Molson, thank you for joining us. The nouns, I think I can wrap it. All the nouns given, when you are answering the question, follow the order of the nouns and the spelling. That is where, again, our candidates lose marks. For instance, if you recall, we have so many traps that we have, or hurdles that our candidates, the previous candidates, have gone through. There was a year they brought a name called Nurture Lucy. Huh? And it was a table. Then they asked, who was maybe the prefect in charge of this? Now, all the two speakers will bear me witness on this name. There is a name called Nancha. So if in the question, we call it the rubric. In the question, there was, or in the table, there was a name called Nacha Lucy. And you've seen it as the potential answer. In your writing, you are mistaken and you write Nancha. This is definitely different from Nacha. And this will give you a flat 0. Order of names as given in the notice, table, story, what have you. Then they say maybe Nancha Lucy, this one. Then for you change and you begin with Lucy, Nancha. Nancha Lucy is definitely different from Lucy Nacha. So there they will say you have set your own question. And this will be also crossed. There was another year they brought kettle, and most people wrote kato, which was a diversion from the original item, and made candidates lose what? Marks. Then, in rewrite, your instructions are within the brackets of every question. For instance, they have told you begin, although. A candidate should know that that is the first thing. Now you have your line here. Rewrite beginning, although. The first thing you write is although. You may have a very beautiful answer, but if you have although within the sentence, your answer will be crossed. Then, the punctuation marks. I would say all punctuation marks must be treated with the utmost care. But the most dangerous of all, where an exclamation mark is needed, where a question mark is needed, if it is direct and indirect, the inverted commas, they should not be directly proportional to the statements. If you are writing the word come, this should not be directly proportional. It should be fencing, because you will never find a fence cutting part of your house outside your plot. It will never happen. So it should be inside. Then you will have your word come. And the other closing one somewhere. If it's a comma here or a full stop, it must be within the inverted commas. And then, of course, the commas. They are structures or statements where commas are paramount. You don't negotiate. You are beginning a sentence with although. A comma is there somewhere within the sentence. So punctuation is key. And then answering wrong questions, the one we call setting your own question. The question is directing you to give a specific answer. And then you give your answer for a different question. That is automatic 0. You'll have set your question. That's where I began from, following the text. And then knowing exactly what the question wants. The voice. Change of voice. There is no negotiation. Who wrote the above notice? Then you say the above notice was written by. You have diverted to passive voice, and there is no negotiation. I think among a few, those ones I have highlighted. I hope I have answered the question. Ogwang, your mic is on. Speak.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have here a question. That is the man, he bought a new car using who?
That is the man. That is now those are relative relative pronouns. That is the man. That is the man. He bought what?
A new car.
He bought a new car.
Yes. Using who?
He writes using
Who?
who, eh?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there is a problem they must have had direct, what we call relative clauses. We have a defining relative clause and a non-defining relative what? Clause. Now, those are very big words for you, a candidate in primary. But the only way to understand this, what is the news about this man? The news is buying a new car. Are we there? Now, I will say that is the man who bought a new car. Now, the question is whether to put commas or without two commas. When I say that is the man, do I know this man? I don't know this man. For other questions of the same kind where commas are needed, these are the guiding tools. There must be a proper noun. For instance, John is my neighbor. Is my what? Neighbor. Is my neighbor. Okay. Let me say John is my brother. Let me just use brother. John is my brother. He bought a car. He bought a car. Then they said right and use what? Who? So you say John, who is my brother, has bought has bought a car. But now I have John, and John is a name of a person, which is a proper noun. So when you have a proper noun, don't forget commas. So I'll say John, comma, I'll use it here. John, comma, who is my brother, has bought a car. Full stop. So I can do away with this statement here, and I will still have sense in my sentence. John has bought a car. So to determine the ones that use who, whose, whom with commas, look out for a proper noun. Okay. Otherwise, our time is fast spent. I have another class waiting for me now. I don't know. But I wanted to give you tips on picture composition. Picture composition. Right there. Tips on picture composition. Picture composition. Number one, tenses. Picture composition. Are we writing? Somebody is talking. Somebody is talking.
Yes, please. Now,
Yes.
are you getting me?
Yes.
As a teacher, because I know you go to the classroom. Is it so?
Yes.
Advise us on the areas, the critical areas of revision.
Okay, let me just give you the critical points.
Yes.
For section B, train the children on reading and answering questions about passages, and then 2 poems. A poem will never miss. There will be a notice, something like a notice, advertisement, There will be a table, something like a table. The ones I will put is from, it means that is under one aspect. There can also be a map. There is a possibility. Now, for questions 50, 51, 52, and 53, they dwell in these areas. Now, 54, somebody is shouting. Tukedan, you can mute. Tukedan, help us mute. Tukedan, thank you, help us mute. Mute your mic. Okay. Questions 54 and 55. The following aspects I've taken time without coming for now. There is a picture composition. Tukedan, please mute your mic so that the children do not. Okay, thank you for joining us.
I don't know.
Composition. You have
I
that
don't know how to get
downward stroke.
and yet
You look at the three blue dots. If you are using a laptop, just click on it. It will mute.
and you know
I mean,
where
it
am
will,
I?
yeah.
Don't you? We are learning.
Okay.
This is what they call zooming.
You just tell them to keep quiet because they are interrupting us. Okay. Jumble story. Make sure you practice a few. Letter writing, both formal and informal. And then free composition writing. Free composition writing. And then guided dialogue. Guided dialogue. Where they give them words of one speaker and they will want them to write the words of the next speaker. Now, this is what we call composition in a paper of English. This is what we call comprehension. So, when you revise these things, particular texts, you will never go astray. You'll never go astray. And then in rewrite, following still our curriculum, don't neglect P5, P6 work. I tell you, don't neglect P6, P5 work. Most of the things come from there. And then P4, of course. I'm going to give you my number for further consultations because I'm running late for a physical class. It's 0755 86 91 55. Feel free to consult about any issue in relation to academics so that our children will excel.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Could you please elaborate for us the tips on picture composition?
Okay. Very quickly, have somewhere to write. Picture composition. Picture composition. Now, with picture composition, there are two ways under which it can be set. You can have 6 pictures, and then there are 6 spaces left for you to write the answers. It can be A to F, it can be 1 to 6, depending. And then they will put for you other questions. G up to maybe J. Now, we have the following tenses. Tenses, number 1, we use present continuous tense. Present continuous tense. For actions that are within A to F, 1 to 6. If the action started and it is still continuing, maybe they have drawn a picture of children writing examination. Then you will say, children are writing examination. So here we shall use the helping verbs is or are plus ing onto the main what? Main verb. If the action started and it is still what? Continuing. Now, the other tense is that present simple tense. Present simple tense, we use has or have plus the past perfect of the verb. Past perfect or the past participle. Now, if the action took place, it ended, you are now seeing results. So you will say, the children have written. Have written. So this kind of tense works on all reflex actions.
Point of correction.
On all reflex what?
Point
Yes?
of correction.
Yes,
Point of
yes.
correction. Present perfect, I think. Present perfect tense. Not present simple.
Oh, sorry. So not past perfect. Sorry. Present perfect tense. Yeah. Sorry. Present. I'm in a hurry. Present perfect what? Thank you for the correction. Present perfect tense. Where we use has or have plus the past perfect of the what? Of the verb. The boys have written. The boys have carried the benches. Now that tense works on all reflex actions. On all reflex what? Actions. An accident has happened. So don't use the point of an accident in the present continuous tense. That will be wrong, because an accident, if a car knocks a pedestrian, it cannot continue knocking, so that you say a car is knocking a pedestrian. So you say a car has knocked a pedestrian. It happens once. Reflex actions. And then the rest of the questions after the sixth one, you answer them like the way we answer any other question in section B. Then 2 articles. Now, for the first mention, we use article a and an. For the first what? Mention. You're going to talk about a noun for the first time. You use article a. If it's beginning a sentence, article a. Or article